Good evening. Tonight we are going to take a quick journey to discover where the album came from, right before we present the trophy for Album of the Year. Now everybody knows that when Albert Bumstein emigrated to the United States in the 1920s, he changed his name to Album, which is a good thing, because it rolled off the tongue way better than Albert Bumstein. Now originally, an album was known as a 78, and it was a collection of 78 songs, and there was one per revolution of the album.
Bumstein had grown scornful of musicians, traveling about, having fun, and he had hoped that his invention would trap their souls, binding them for eternity, forcing them to perform their 78 songs every time you played their album. Many of these musicians grew addicted to heroin, which is why you were forced to replace the needle on your gramophone with great regularity.
Later on, the number of songs was reduced, and the album became known as a 12-inch or an LP. Lip is what most people refer to them as. Now, the final iteration of the album got so small that it frightened the public. At 7 inches, it made everybody go, "Eep!" Which is why nowadays a 7-inch album is known as an EEP. I'm not sure what makes an album great, but tonight we're going to find out. Let's take a look at the very most important element that one could use to judge whether an album is great, and that, of course, is the cover art. Here I have a copy of Phil Morrison's album from the 1970s and his band, The Stark Reality. Now, the artist has chosen to render each member of the band in a very cartoonish manner. Same as this one. Another possible option for an album cover would be a landscape. Or a computer-generated rendering of a fantastical image. One might even choose to put a portrait of the artist themselves on the cover. Sometimes the American flag is the cover of an album. And sometimes there's simply a solid color on the cover of the album. And that's really all we need to know.
Tonight's episode of Good or Not is brought to you...
What? Oh, right. Sure, right away. Well, it looks like there was one thing that I failed to mention. Another element to judging whether an album is good or not. And that would be open up the album, take out the contents. In this case, it's a disc. Put it on something, listen to it. There's music on there. And I can't believe that I forgot to mention it, but music would be another element that one could use to judge whether an album is good or not. And that's all we have for you tonight, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. And don't forget to join us next week when we take a look at what makes a sandwich good or not. Bye-bye.
Tonight's episode of Good or Not is brought to you in part by Charles Good's Skiff Rental and viewers like you.